Hello and welcome to episode 12 of my Mindset Tips series. Just a reminder, this is not a sports psychology course. It's a collection of individual tips that are mainly focused on racket sports, but they could be used in business presentations or academic situations or even any kind of performance art situations. On the screen at the moment are the individual tips along with the times that they start. So if you're interested in jumping to one of those tips, you can see the time. YouTube's new chapter dividers will help you jump there, and also in the text description are quick jump links. So let's get started. Tip 45, think like a team. Now, as I said at the beginning, this series of mindset tips are really focused on racket sports, individual racket sports, squash, tennis, badminton, table tennis, although that's a bat, all sorts of other things. When you play a team sport, you are given a specific job. Perhaps it's at the back of the pitch or the back of the court, where you defend, where you stop your opponents from scoring points or winning points. Or you could be in the middle of the court or the pitch or whatever you want to call the area where you play, where you have to create opportunities, limit opportunities for your opponent. And then the last one, of course, is probably at the front, where you are trying to win the point, where you're trying to score goals. And the same is true on a squash court, on a tennis court, on a badminton court. There are times when you need to play defensively. There are times when you need to look for opportunities, try to create opportunities while minimizing the opportunities for your opponent. And there are times when you've created that opportunity when you should be trying to score the goal, where you should be trying to win the point. Now, what I'm asking you to do is accept that you will have to play different roles at different times. Some players play one type of game all of the time. They just seem to attack, or they just seem to defend. When I was playing a lot of squash, we called the players who just defended hackers. They just kept the ball going, looking for a mistake. Now, there's a time for that, but there's also a time where you need to be different players, especially when you play in club matches where you're playing against different types of players. So all I want you to do with this tip is don't think that you are a one-dimensional player. You are a three-dimensional player. You play at different heights, at different lengths, at different styles. You attack when you need to, you defend when you need to, and you create opportunities as often as possible. Tip 46, overconfidence is just as bad as underconfidence. Now, I'm talking in two aspects here. I'm talking about in the general sense, where you see players and there's this bravado, there's the shoulders, you can't beat me, I'm unbeatable, I'm the best. And a lot of people think that that's how you should be, and you shouldn't be that. I don't think that you need to be that. You don't need to put that persona of being unbeatable. The best players in the world have huge confidence inside, but they don't necessarily have to show it all of the time. If you meet some of the best players in the world who have been the best at what they've ever done, they're not arrogant, they're quite humble. So you don't have to be this overall, I'm the best, you can't beat me, I'm going to win this match, 100% I'm going to win this match. That's just bravado. It's just false courage to hide doubt. So you don't need to do that. Just say to yourself, I'm going to do my best, I'm going to stick to my game plan, and I'm going to work hard. And if I do those things, I'll have the best chance of success. Okay, fine. The other type of overconfidence is when you've hit a really good shot and a winner perhaps, and then you get into the same situation again and you remember, in that last game I hit that cross-court nick from exactly the same situation. Now, I know that sounds like a lot of thinking in a very short period of time, but it happens. It does. The ball comes up and you recognise this is the same as before, and smack, ding, you hit the tin. All right, okay, so you're one for two. 1 point, you won. 1 point, you lost. Now, a lot depends on where the point was. If it's at 0-0, it's in the first point, doesn't make any difference. If it's a game ball, it makes a huge difference. Okay, so keep that in mind. You've hit two shots, you've hit one winner, 1 tin. And then you come along and you've got another situation and you go for it again. And I'm going to assume that you miss it again. And I'm going to assume that you miss it because it might have been a lucky shot. Now I'm using this because I've got space here, so I'm pretending it's a forehand cross-court nick. All right, and where is the overconfidence in this situation? The overconfidence is in giving too much evidence, giving too much emphasis to the one winner that you hit and forgetting about the 2 or 3 that you missed. Now, as I said, a lot depends on when you play that shot. But what tends to happen is we tend to rationalise, I missed that one because it was a little bit faster than the other, or it was a little bit tighter, but I can play that. I can hit those shots. I can win points from them. And suddenly you look back and maybe you lost 4 or 5 and you won 1. And okay, maybe the 4 or 5 that you lost were at the beginning of the game and it didn't really affect how it happened. And the 1 point that you did win won you the game, or maybe even won you the match. But don't put too much emphasis on those occasional winners. Unless you can do it consistently 2 out of 3 times, maybe 3 out of 4, 4 out of 5, we're getting higher and higher percentages. Unless you can do it consistently, that's not a shot you should be playing. So to summarise, to recap, 1, don't think you need this overconfident bravado persona where you say, I'm not going to lose, I know I can win. Unless you've beaten this player before, you don't know, you just believe, and there's a big difference. And the second type of overconfidence that you shouldn't have is overemphasising the one flashy, spectacular winner and all of the others from the same position that you lost points on. You must be smart. Tip 47. Now, sports psychology is often about positivity, being positive, but this one is the opposite. Just say no. I feel that there's a lot of benefit in refusing to accept. And when it comes to mental strength and resilience and fortitude, when you're training and you're playing hard, you're not saying to yourself, oh, I'm loving this. You're saying, I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to give in. We've got those negative ideas, and I don't think that that's a bad thing. Say to yourself, no, I am not going to play stupid shots. No, I'm not going to end the rally just because I'm tired. No, I'm not going to attack every difficult shot because that's the spectacular shot, like tip 46. You can say no and say, I'm going to continue playing the hard version. I'm going to continue working until I get the best opportunity, and then I'm going to do it. And that's why when you watch better and better players, the rallies tend to get longer and longer, or they get harder and harder, because players are prepared to wait for the right opportunity. So it's like this slogan about saying no to drugs, say no to drugs. Say no to weak mental ideas. Say no to going for shots when they're not on just because you're tired. Tip 48. What's the difference between an amateur and a professional? Well, the obvious answer is how you make a living. If you're a professional, you do this activity and you get money for it, and that's what you do to pay for your lifestyle. An amateur does it for fun. Okay, all right. So what's professionalism then? Well, professionalism is doing everything properly. And just because you are an amateur squash player doesn't mean you can't behave like a professional. I have met a few professionals who behave like an amateur. Now, luckily, they were very naturally talented and very naturally fit. They worked hard, but I've seen them smoking, and I've seen them, not doing the things that they should be doing, going to bed after parties very late. And yes, they might have been mildly successful, but they might not have been as successful as they could have been. Now, as an amateur, just because you don't make your living from playing squash doesn't mean that you can't do things properly. It doesn't mean you can't heat up properly and cool down properly. It doesn't mean you can't practice properly. It doesn't mean you can't assess your matches. It doesn't mean you can't play like a professional. You might not have the talent, you might not have the fitness, you might not have the ability, the time, the opportunity to become as good as those players, but that doesn't matter. What matters is making the best of your situation. There's a phrase in English which is playing with the hand that you're dealt, which is to do with playing cards. And we've been given by the universe, by your God, if you believe in those things, this is my situation. And I've got to do the best with those situations. Okay, maybe this other person's got better cards than I have, and maybe he's going to win, but I'm going to do my best with these cards. Now, maybe you don't believe in gambling, and that's fine as well. It's just the general idea that this is what we have. We have to do the best with it. And that's the idea that I'm trying to express here. That even though you don't make your living from squash, that doesn't mean that you can't do everything to the best of your ability. I'm not suggesting that you suddenly have to give up your job. I'm not suggesting that you have to spend as many hours on court. What I'm suggesting is that the time and the effort that you allocate to your squash, allocate it properly. If your squash needs to work on its fitness or its control, do those things. And yes, if you just play squash because you want to have a bit of fun, that's wonderful. I'm very happy for you to do that. But chances are you're watching this video because you want to get better. And this is one way of getting better. Take every single moment that you are practicing or improving your squash and do it to the best of your ability. After you've played your match and you're sitting around at the back of the court, you're still using the time that the person who's doing a proper cool down is doing. How much more effort is that? Often it's just a mental habit. You get your roller out, you put your tracksuit on, you do some stretches, you cool down in a proper way, you walk around, you don't just sit down, you make sure you don't get cold. There's lots of different things, and that's just one example. And it's the same for warming up. People just get there, they stand on a balcony, they just talk. You might see them sort of doing things like this, and this is the one I love. Oh yeah, that's really going to make a difference. Come on. You've got to be downstairs jogging, you've got to be sweating, you've got to be doing some dynamic stretches, you've got to be preparing your mental game. And it doesn't take much or more effort to do those things than it does to stand on a balcony and look, or at the end of the game, sit on against the wall. It doesn't take much more effort, but it takes more mental effort. And that's what I'm asking. A little bit more professional attitude will make a huge difference to you over the course of a season. Okay, so there you go. Those were the tips for this episode, 45, 46, 47, 48. I hope you enjoyed them. Please put your comments in the comment section and let me know what you feel about them. This is a subscription button. If and only if you think my content is useful, please consider subscribing. This is a playlist of all of the other mindset tips, and this is a video that YouTube thinks is a good fit for you based on what you've been watching. And remember, do something every single day to improve your squash. See ya.